Hey guys, thanks for coming out here and thanks so much for the love and the subs to the channel. I'm on a quest to 1,000 subs. So if you're getting anything out of this video, make sure to hit the subscribe and the notification bell now because there is just so many people out here. If you don't do it now, you're never going to find me again. I was talking about phlegm and how to identify phlegm. In Chinese medicine, phlegm is the worst. It's at the root of most of the diseases for those of us who are over 50 years old. And it's a critical component of the triple threat to your independence. And what is the triple threat? Obesity, dementia, and dizziness. And if that's not a big enough bummer, phlegm is usually really difficult to get rid of. You usually have to be very committed and diligent to get rid of phlegm. To give you an idea of how hard it is to get rid of phlegm, for some of you over 50, you've already experienced that rapidly expanding waistline that's impossible to reduce. You do your dieting thing, manage your exercise, watch your calories, and you just can't drop the weight. That is phlegm. That impossible to drop weight category is not regular overweight, it's phlegm. It's you've been enjoying life or overindulging in life, and now it's payback. And here's the other thing phlegm isn't just limited to the over 50 crowd, it's just that that crowd gets to experience it more often. And it's usually tagging along with any issue you have when you're over 50. So let's talk about the causes of phlegm. And there are three main driving forces to phlegm creation. And I'm going to talk about each one of these. And it will give you some ideas of the areas where you can make a difference and help eliminate phlegm in your body. And before we get started, I want to go over my general disclaimer that all the information in this video is for entertainment and educational purposes only. You should talk with your healthcare provider about your unique situation. If you've been seeing an acupuncturist or Chinese medical provider, you've heard of phlegm. And in my episode, What is Phlegm in Chinese Medicine? I go over how you can identify phlegm in your body. In a later episode, I go over some of the things you can do to help break up phlegm because what you're going to find out about phlegm is you have to attack it from multiple angles. Just doing one thing is not going to cut it. So, here you're going to identify the leading drivers of phlegm. And in a later episode, I'm going to go over some things you can do to help loosen phlegm and why you would even want to think about doing that. Okay, well, how is phlegm created in the body? It takes time to create phlegm. When you get to phlegm, you've been doing this for a long time, 20 to 30 years. In fact, you've created a habit around low quality health habits. And you can have low quality or high quality health habits. Low quality health habits usually take away pieces of your health without replacing what they use. Unfortunately, one of the most common causes of phlegm in the body will be your food choices. And there are four ways food can cause phlegm. First, some foods have a tendency to be a bigger producer of phlegm than others. Eating or consuming these foods a few times is not going to produce phlegm, but when you consume them multiple times a week or daily, they are going to create phlegm in the body. The most common contributors to phlegm, they're going to be things like alcohol, dairy, meats, deep fried foods, fast foods, fun foods like chips and bakery goods. A second leading cause of phlegm is overeating. And when it comes to overeating, almost any food can create phlegm in the body. I have a video out here on food sensitivities. I'm going to put a link in the video description below. It goes into more depth explaining why overeating a favorite food is going to cause problems with your health and phlegm in the long run. Even though it seems like your stomach is strong and resilient, these insults will take a toll over the years. And the third way food can create phlegm and damage your digestion can be your eating habits. So if you're discussing work when you're eating, if you're eating on the run or in a hurry, eating at your desk or late at night, all of these habits put more stress on your digestion, making it more difficult to break down what you've eaten. And the stomach actually does its best work when allowed to sit down, relax, and focus entirely on digestion. So, with foods, these are the common ways digestion can be harmed: alcohol, excessive consumption of rich, sugary, and fatty foods, overeating, and your eating habits. Yet, there is one last thing. The fourth way foods can harm the body and create phlegm comes from an ancient Chinese saying. They have a saying in Chinese medicine that the spleen likes warmth. And so eating a lot of cold foods will damage the spleen and cause phlegm over time. So, again, eating ice cream is not going to cause phlegm, but eating ice cream every night or multiple times a week will likely cause phlegm over time. And that's the same thing with raw foods. You can eat them while your digestion is strong, but as you start to age and get older, eating raw foods constantly takes a lot more enzymes than eating cooked foods. So, eating cold foods and raw foods are considered cold in Chinese medicine most of the time. They're going to cause phlegm. Okay, that's the four ways that food can contribute to creating phlegm. And another big driver of phlegm in the body is the emotions. In the United States, we talk about the hard driving type A personality and how they are prone to heart attacks. So, one of the diseases that can come from phlegm is heart disease and heart attacks. So, we do have some basis in the West of recognizing that emotions can cause disease, and you have to practice being a type A personality for a long time. Doing it for 90 days just isn't going to make the changes, but doing it for 20 to 30 years will. That's the critical thing. It takes time. The body is very resilient and will fight for survival. It's not just being a type A personality focused on overworking. Any excessive emotion practiced for 20 to 30 years can introduce phlegm into the body. It would just change where the phlegm was located in the body. Now, cancer has become a common disease today. In part one of this series, diseases like cancer are thought to have a phlegm component in Chinese medicine. So, just to give you an idea of the different emotions and the relation to cancer, breast cancer along the side of the breast is usually associated with frustration or things like anger turned inwards, resentment, fighting, depression. Lung cancer is an emotion of grief, feeling invalidated and worthless, ignored, or walked over, whereas pancreatic cancer can be a disenchantment with life, exhaustion with trying for a different result with the same effort. So, this isn't necessarily true, but in general, these are the types of emotional constitutions associated with these different cancers. Yet, the thought is any strong emotion experienced over long periods of time will impact the body's energetics and how the body functions, and it will slow or stop the flow of fluids or blood in the different organs or tissues. And this change will allow for the disease to grow in that area. And talking about how phlegm is created in cancers, a similar thing happens with trauma from an external source like a car accident, a fall, or a sports injury. These types of trauma can cause damage. And as the damage heals, it can create scar tissue. Scar tissue will grow around the organs, the blood vessels, and the interstitial tissues. So, take the example of surgery. It is common that the tissue around the surgery scars and hardens. This is scar tissue. And where scar tissue forms, the fluids that used to flow through the tissues no longer can flow through. And over time, the scar tissue can get larger as the scarring slows the flow of fluids through the nearby tissues. And this change in the flow of fluids in the nearby tissues creates phlegm in those tissues. So, phlegm is the slowing down and thickening of fluids. And other things can change how body fluids flow through the body. And anything that causes the fluids to slow down lays the foundation for phlegm in the body. So, medications can slow down fluids, especially some of the painkillers. But those are not the only medications that have an impact on the fluids of the body. Almost all of them have some type of influence on how fluids flow through the body. Three major categories that can cause phlegm in the body: food, emotions, and things that change how body fluids flow through the tissues. With food, it's overeating, eating fatty, greasy foods, having low quality eating habits, and eating too much cold and raw foods. With emotions, any emotion that consumes most of your thought and does this for about 20, 30 years. And lastly, things can change how body fluids move through your body tissues like trauma and a lot of the medications used today. But here's the thing, it takes 20 to 30 years to really get phlegm in all these categories. Yet when you get there, you really know it. It's that weight that you can't take off no matter how hard you try. It's those weird illnesses that your doctor has no idea what it is and they can't fix it. It's the serious diseases of aging that take a 180-degree turn in how you take care of yourself to change your outcomes. It's the triple threat to independence: obesity, dementia, and dizziness. And again, phlegm isn't just for older adults. Anyone can have phlegm and experience difficulty to manage and treat health issues. It's just so much more common in older adults. In the next episode, I'm going to talk about some of the things you can do to help break up phlegm, because without focusing on phlegm, you're not going to change your outcome. To give you an example, to lose that impossible to lose weight, you're going to have a difficult time transforming your weight without focusing on phlegm. So without focusing on the foods that cause phlegm, without focusing on how to break up phlegm, without focusing on how your emotions have an impact on phlegm. And the other thing about phlegm, I talked about the three causes of phlegm here. A lot of times it takes two of those categories. You've been playing in two of these categories for 20 to 30 years. And sometimes you've been playing in three of those categories. And that is why it really takes a concerted effort, and you really have to focus on the causes and what you can do to break it up to get rid of phlegm. So, okay, until next time, I'll catch you on the other side.